productive and effective in delivering our targets, in providing effective service to our customers, and also meeting the expectations of our bigger stakeholders. Today, to unpack this topic, we have probably the best person in the whole of Uganda to help us unpack the subject of authentic leadership and how it can help us to manage effectively. Our presenter has got measurable, he has got demonstrable, and he's got visible track record. You can see it in the infrastructure across the country. You can see it in the number of people we are serving. And indeed, for us who work here, we can also see the effectiveness of the leadership in our payment of our salaries all the time. So I'd like to invite the managing director to come and help us unpack authentic leadership and how it contributes to effective management. Thank you very much. Welcome, Dr. Selma Mugisha.
Thank you very much, Sam, as usual, for moderating these sessions. Today is our third series of this training, and we are going to be looking at authentic leadership. I want, of course, to thank the people who have been working with us on the logistics side. We want to thank the IT people and the social media team led by you, Sama Pede. There is also another important person we've not been mentioning here, Mahmoud Rutaya, the General Manager Kampala, who does a lot of support to me in terms of compiling this material for presentation. And of course, the people who normally present these things with us. We have had Engineer Mayo doing it twice. Now we have Dr. Rose, who will be our lead discussant. And I'm sure you will also present her when she's going to discuss, because she's quite a resource person in the corporation. And also the people who have been concluding. We initially had Dr. Charles Okunzi. Then I think last time we had Ateke, Engineer Ateke from Ruhama, Area Manager Ruhama. And today we shall have Deo Serumaga. All these people are very good, And as I hinted in the beginning, I only come here to really set the scene. And the purpose of this, as we have rightly said, Sam, is to really put a menu of things that our people need to be good leaders. There are going to be many things, and it is going to be the choice of our managers, of our leaders here, to see which ones to use in order to be effective leaders. The topic for today is actually not authentic leadership in enhancing managerial effectiveness, but rather organizational effectiveness. And we shall be doing that by referring to national examples as much as possible. So what is authentic leadership? I will not go into defining like as if I'm a dictionary, but I will just define authentic leadership with a few hints you can use. If you want to know whether you are an authentic leader, one of the things is to know what you think you are the person. What you think, what you say, and eventually what you do. Authentic leadership is looked at what you think, what you say, and what you do eventually. So clearly, that sets the framework under which we shall be discussing this. But this, as usual, for this presentation, we decided to anchor everything in the achievement of SDG 6, Sustainable Development Goal number 6. And this goal number 6, as you all know, is about not only availability of water and sanitation services for all, but it is also about sustainable management. So you don't only make available, but you also reflect very, very seriously on how these services will be managed. And all this starts from, I just want to motivate our listeners using the case study of National Water. And as usual, I will show you where National Water has come from in the last 30 years and where it is going. The chart is there. I will not go through the details, but what it really means is that if we continue the way we are doing, we are likely to achieve this SDG number 6. The only thing we have to do now, and the reason why we are presenting all this, is try to heal the disease of complacence, is try to continue to rejuvenate what we are doing, try to continue to reset so that we can continue on this trajectory of achieving SDG number 6. But of course, as you know, National Water and Sewerage Corporation is a parastatal which is wholly owned by government as a sole shareholder. But unlike many other public institutions, National Water operates in a commercially and sustainable and financially viable manner. And I want all our managers and people listening to us to always bear this in mind, because the moment you don't know this, it also affects the way you do things. If you are supposed to operate in a financially and commercially viable manner, and under commercially, I must add customer responsiveness, there is no difference in the way National Water operates from any other private enterprise that serves customers, that its survival really depends on the goodwill and payment behavior of customers. And once we know this, it will guide us in the way we should operate. It means if we annoy customers, our sustainability will also be affected. If we spend anyhow, and we don't know, if we don't know that our salaries, our money for chemicals, our money for power must be internally generated, and that's what we mean by financially viable, then we would have a problem. We have had a long history in National Water of some people mastering in spending, and they don't look so much on business growth. They also don't look so much on the revenue side of things. And that would be detracting from the legal mandate of National Water. And therefore, this authentic leadership we are going to look at today is to help us as an institution, and indeed other institutions, how they can be effective. So now, what is authentic leadership? Again, I will not go into reading all that, but I will just concentrate on, what is the pointer? Yeah, that's what I'm pressing. Are you seeing it yourself? Okay, so there is these guys are just receiving that because of the light. You have it and work on it. Authentic leadership is in the middle of so many perspectives, as I put in that chart. We have positive work relationships. If you really want to be authentic, you must make sure that there is positivity. There is positivity. There is a good working relationship at the workplace. You have to also be aware that crises come, and if a crisis comes, it calls for change management. You have to be able to influence people, to get to know what you want, to understand what you want, so that they can be able to follow your vision. You have to work as a team, so team culture and dynamics is important. You have to be sure that there is diversity. Fortunately, in our setting here in Uganda, we are different. We are people of different backgrounds. And you have to see how these people from different backgrounds, different levels of understanding can work as a team. We have to look at performance and motivation. That's why we have incentives in national water, for example. We pay incentives when people do well. You have to look at creativity and innovation. We have to look at ethics and fairness, then stress management. All these things, what is in the middle of it, what is at the center of all of it is authentic leadership. Authentic leaders, on the other side, what I like on authentic leadership is you must be able to work with your head and your heart. The head helps you to think. The heart helps you to be empathetic in the way you operate. Actually, if you want to be a good leader, you may want to be hard-headed, meaning that you think hard about what you want to do, meaning that you stay on the line of performance, but when you come to deal with people, you deal with them with a soft heart. Now, one of the key elements of authentic leadership I want us to look at today is learning from institutional memory and life story. Like in national water here, many things have happened. We have implemented so many change management programs. There have been achievements, there have been failures. Now, if you want to be an authentic leader, authentic leadership means you look at what has happened in the past and you see how you can use that to achieve a better tomorrow. There are very important lessons that must have been learned from not only the successes, but also on the failures. And it is very, very important that every leader, every manager looks at that. Although it is also not good for you to get stuck in the past, because you'll be captured or you'll be confronted by the common saying that you cannot continue to do things the same way over and over again, expecting to get different results. So reflecting on what has happened in the past is very, very important. Creating a strong culture of knowing authentic self. It is important that people can welcome criticisms, can welcome feedback, can welcome personal evaluation, can do personal evaluation in order to sustain high performance. If you only want positive criticisms, if you only want to be judged on the right side all the time, definitely you will never improve. You have to have an open door policy. Open door policy does not mean that you open your door so that people just enter. Open door policy means you have a policy where ideas come, irrespective of how they come, but they all come to help you to improve things, to create a bigger space for you to be able to continuously improve the performance of the organization. You must also lay a strong foundation for self-respect and accountability. Don't take criticism in a bad faith or in a bad way if you want to improve, if you want to be authentic in leadership. A leadership logic that hates failures, that hates disappointments, remains short-sighted. A leader, when you fail in anything, you learn lessons from there. You learn lessons of how to make things better. But if you say, for me, I hate failures, in life, if you want to live in a world or in life of no failures, I think that can only be found in heaven. The other one is inculcating a high spirit of practicing values and principles. All organizations have sets of values. But I can tell you, the stability of these values can be tested when you are confronted with hardships, when you are confronted with challenges, when you are confronted with extreme disruptions. Like now, COVID pandemic came. We were here, our modus operandi was, we shall give you services. If you don't pay for them, we disconnect you. But we had to adapt. And this one was even dictated by external environment. The external environment was people need water, you cannot disconnect them. And we had to adapt to go into talking, into sensitizing customers more than disconnecting. And as we see, I think all those who are listening to me, the managers, can clearly testify that I think there is a lot of opportunity in talking and sensitizing customers and convincing them to pay without necessarily disconnecting them. So values are very, very important, but they are very important for any strategic plan of an institution, but they need to be sustainable. They need to be adapted depending on circumstances. Building internal and external emotions. If you want to practice authentic leadership, means that you have support internally, internal to the institution. You also have support externally. People can be able to support you in the external environment. They can be able to advocate for you. They can be able to understand the challenges you are going through so that they can support you. You also have to be true to yourself. Letting someone know what should be known and not what they want to know creates a better learning environment. If you are going to give feedback to your people, let them be told what they should know. And in that way, it will help them to learn. It will help them to know where they are doing well and where they want to do, they should do better. Now, the other one is building a strong culture of work-life balance. There is no way you can be productive as a manager or as a leader, together even with your staff, without balancing work and life, without having a mindset that if the organization wins, you must also, the staff who are working in the organization must also win. Without helping your people or your employees to have lasting relationships, because lasting relationships create stability, lasting relationship create productivity of staff productivity. Without helping your people to build networks, to have stable families, to have social capital, and to have a healthy living, and most importantly, personal development. And where possible, because some people, I think managers and leaders tend to assume that somebody will automatically be interested in personal development. But I can assure you, some people can pursue a personal development path that is counterproductive. It is possible, for example, for a person to choose personal development to mean he's going to be drinking every day and getting drunk. He's going to be eating pork every day. Of course, spending money in all these things. His personal development is going to mean that he's going to be a best man every week. He's going to be a matron every week. That is what some people think that is personal development. Yes, those things can be done, but I think sometimes there are better ways of personal development. For example, I've been telling the people I visit in areas that if a bird can have a nest, why wouldn't a normal human being have a place where he or she stays without stealing? You don't have to steal. You don't have to defraud the corporation to be able to do that. But all these resources you are putting in all those lavish ways of life can easily be put in more meaningful personal development activities. And some of these things require we managers, we leaders to mentor and coach our staff so that they can go in that direction. Because a staff who is not seeing a clear path, remember they will be very happy when they are drinking, when they are enjoying, but they can be a source of insecurity, a source of rumors, a source of antagonism in the organization if some of those other fundamentals are not there. So we have to help this staff to live a proper and strong culture of work-life balance. Empowering people to lead. Unfortunately, I see so many situations, not only in national water, but elsewhere, of people who don't like empowering their subordinates. One of the key tenets of a good leader is for you to train your successors, for you to be happy when things move, when you are not there. And therefore, that of course calls for empowering people. That if you are a leader somewhere, the people below you, the people below those who are below you are all empowered to lead. Because you will never live on this earth forever. And of course, also, if you want to be promoted from the level at which you are to a higher level, you must help people to be promoted to where you are. And you cannot help them when you fight them. I had a situation, for example, in national water, seeing a leader fighting, competing with a subordinate. It does not make sense. I can assure you, one of the greatest motivators of staff, of employees, is to see their leaders empowering them, is to see their leaders wishing them to be better leaders. That is extremely, very, very important. So the best way of simplifying leadership is to delegate and empower people to lead. And when you are delegating, you know you are delegating. When you are not delegating, you will see the workload on you. You will know that definitely there is something wrong. Remember, there are only 3 levels in the workplace. There are those who are workers, there are those who are managers, and then on the higher level, there are those who are leaders. Now, the worst thing is for you, who is naturally a worker, to think you are a leader. And therefore, the reason why we present all these things is to help you to understand what leading means and what management means. So one way is to allow people to plan and take risks. Empowering, you don't just empower and tell somebody that I have empowered you. No. How do you do it? You allow people to plan and take risks. When they fail, because they are bound to fail or succeed. When they fail, you provide support and assurance. And when they succeed, you encourage them to celebrate their successes and aim at the next level, next practice. Authentic leadership requires that there is a system of continuous re-engineering and research, continuously changing the way you are doing things. Always looking for new ways of improving production technologies and efficiencies. Always introducing technology that will make things better. Always restructuring, always improving the process so that efficiencies can be better. The other aspect is the manager's role. The authentic leadership is making sure that the manager's role is not to please everyone. We are now we have been looking at understanding authentic leadership. We are now looking at how you can use authentic leadership to enhance organizational effectiveness. The manager's role or the leader's role is not to please everyone. Because people make mistakes. They work as if there is going to be an election tomorrow. A leader's role is to do two things. Leaders don't ruthlessly drive for performance goals and targets in ways that leave everyone injured. You make sure you don't injure people in your management role or in your leadership role. But they are also not obsessed with making everyone happy at the expense of organizational interests. That for you, if you are a manager, every voucher for allowances which comes, you approve it. Every voucher, even when your monthly allocation is, for example, 1.5 million, you find you have committed allowances of 6 million because you want to be popular among people. The staff brings a request. Now I'm talking to some of the people I have here for a laptop, because the laptop he or she has is a bit old. You sign because you want to be popular with the person. You don't ask about the functionality of the laptop. You don't ask about this. Of course, the other side is don't be unfairly treat people. If somebody really the laptop, every time a person touches the laptop like this, it blacks out. Every time it touches it, it blacks out. You don't say, I will not approve because you have one. But if somebody's request for a laptop is because he wants a better version, he or she wants to look good in the people. It's not about functionality. It is about a pomp. This laptop is this type. Now I want Apple. I want what? I want, to look big in his or her colleagues. Then that's a different matter. So the leader's role is not to please everyone. The leader's role is to be fair. The leader's role is to be objective. The leader's role is to drive the interests of the organization as well as the interests of the people he or she is leading. Another way of enhancing organizational effectiveness is good managers find the right mix of people to work with. To achieve effectiveness, managers must carefully select people to work with directly, people who work with them directly, to implement the strategy and helping them work together in harmony, collaboratively, across functions and silos. The trick in achieving organizational effectiveness, and therefore your effectiveness as a manager, is in carefully selecting people, is having the right people. Remember, you cannot empower, you cannot delegate to wrong people. You have to carefully select people, and we shall come back later on how you select people. So the manager's role when you have selected people is decompartmentalize. You don't work in compartments. That's what that word means. Roles, and create a conducive environment that promotes harmony and job satisfaction. You let people work across departments. You let people build synergies so that they can increase productivity at the workplace. The other one is ensure your direct reports get needed feedback. The worst you can do is to give a false feedback. Somebody is not doing well, you come and say, oh, I'm very, very happy. Everything is going on well. So how will somebody improve? What will be the basis for somebody to improve? If you have gone to the waterworks, for example, and everything is bushy, and you are telling people that they are doing well, somebody will not have the motivation to slash, to clean. So you must give the feedback that is needed to drive performance. So good managers aim to give feedback with the purpose of enhancing productivity and accountability. They should not be obsessed with giving good feedback. And this, I see it quite often. You just want to give good feedback. You go to monitor people, you go to check on what is happening, and everything is good. But rather, you give needed feedback Needed feedback is a loaded word. Needed feedback means it is feedback which is supposed to make things better and also not to hurt people. So feedback that reflects reality and performance status as you have found it. People should be given enough feedback. It is very, very important. Give people enough feedback that helps them to either get better or try their talents elsewhere. You don't disengage with staff on account of poor performance if you are not giving feedback to that person. That person, by the time he or she disengages, should feel that I think this is not the right place to work. Maybe my talents were not fit to be here. They can be applied somewhere else. So there is a lot of investment made in building employee experiences and competencies. Therefore, continuing to give feedback and then eventually making an assessment to see if a person is not coping up and getting rid of that person, you definitely cut losses for the institution. It is very, very unfair for an institution and even for the staff, by the way, for you to do everything you should do, mentoring, coaching, and the person is still not coping up, and you want to keep the person in the organization. I have seen, for all those who are listening to me, I have seen situations whereby somebody says, this person can't work there. I think this person is a drunkard, the person is always absent, the person is always this. And you see people wanting to transfer that person to another place. So you wonder, are you transferring absenteeism? Are you transferring drunkenness? Are you transferring all these bad things from this place to this? So such actions are not done in the interest of the organization. If somebody is a drunkard, maybe he's best placed to work in a beer company or in those companies which are always testing how the drinks taste, and then maybe that also helps. If somebody is always absenting himself or herself, then why are you keeping the person in the institution? But again, all that should be preceded by counseling, by talking to the person, by engaging the person, and then you see whether the person can be helped. Another thing is to create learning opportunities. Good managers enable spaces for great people to learn, grow, and develop themselves. You have to create a space for people to learn, and like what we are doing is meant to do that, to help people to learn. Learning is also associated with a much bigger scope, including gaining or acquiring knowledge and obtaining a skill required to enhance performance. When you learn, it means you have more knowledge, you have more skills, you have more competencies to perfect your work, to be proficient at your work. The worst that can happen for a manager is to continue using the same knowledge landscape and expect different results. You cannot use the same knowledge for you. You don't invest in learning and you think things will be different. It can't happen. So I think managers, leaders, staff who are listening to me, let's invest in learning. Let's invest in what we are doing, Googling or researching how we can do better so that we can improve the performance of the organization. Now, also articulating an explicit incentives philosophy. Good managers motivate their people to put their best in doing the right things for the benefit of the organization and themselves. If somebody is good, don't only apply his goodness to the organization. He should also apply his goodness to himself, to develop himself. Remember, we need to make sure we focus on the organization, but also on the personal development of the person. Because if you don't do that, it's not sustainable. The person will work for you with a lot of energy when he or she has just come to the organization. But the moment he continues to observe his personal development line is not making progress, you will start losing energy and will start cutting back in the way he or she is working. Everything must be done to encourage people to apply the power of their knowledge superiority in ways that maximize output and net benefit. Don't be worried with a person who has superior knowledge. I've seen it in this organization. If somebody has superior knowledge, you see the boss is fighting that person. Why? Leadership means you encourage that person, you incentivize that person to apply that superior knowledge into increasing output. When the output of your department, of your business stream, of your unit improves, the credit will go to the leader. The supervisors of this leader will give credit to the leader. You as a leader, your work is to give credit to the people you are working with. But if you start fighting the person who has superior knowledge, there's nobody who can claim to be the best in everything. There will always be something somebody else is better in than you. So in order to do this, you need tact and direction to build to have a strong mindset, which brings a feeling in the organization, as I said, that when the organization wins, the employee must also win. That mindset, once you are using it, if you have this thing, the organization must win, also the staff must win. You definitely will not be in this habit of signing every claim you get. If people bring their claims, yes, you sign them. If they are associated with meaningful work, but you also keep looking at the other side of the organization. What is the organization benefiting? But these claims which are associated with free riding, somebody came on the weekend, he was just there conversing with friends. At the end of the day, a claim. No value to the organization. Then you also sign because you want to be popular. You are preparing for an election to be elected, maybe as a general manager for another place. But that never happens in institutions like national. We should leave those things to politicians. But we, in the technical world, we need to bear this in mind. Let the organization win and also the employee win. And the role of a leader is to solve this equation. How does the organization win and also the employee win? It's an equation that every leader must grapple with. Now, this is very, very important, that leadership is unlocking people's potential to become better. So you want to improve organizational effectiveness, mind about people's potential. Emphasis should not be put on selecting people with technical skill or specific knowledge. And I can assure you, especially managers who are listening to me, this is the mistake we normally make. You want somebody with a technical skill or specific knowledge. You want somebody who is ready-made in this area. Somebody who already has the skills, somebody who already has the knowledge. The most critical characteristic that managers should look for in selecting people to form a working team is potential. What is the potential in a person? And potential means the ability to adapt and grow into increasingly complex roles and environments. The nature of the world of work now is things will always be complex, things will always be hard. So who has the potential to adapt? That is what we should use to select a person to work with. A person may not have the skill now, but if the potential to have the skill is there, this person will have it. If the person has a positive mindset, if the person is a believer that nothing is impossible, those are some of the indicators which should show you the potential of a person. So this approach is good for adaptive environments that the global world is facing. The global world, as you know, is facing changing digital skills. The skills are changing. Competencies are changing. The required competencies are changing. The work challenges are also changing. Like now we have a problem of non-revenue water in Kampala. The requirements are changing. At one point, it was believed that the meters were the cause of non-revenue water. We replaced all the meters at one point, and non-revenue water instead worsened, which means the causal factors, they keep mutating, they keep changing. We now believe that it's because maybe people are stealing the water, which I think is quite correct, because every time you go in there to find out, you see that there's a lot of stealing of the water. Tomorrow we might work on that, then another challenge comes. So when you are selecting people, you must select people who can adapt, who can assess and find out these challenges, which are ever changing all the time. The other one is emotional intelligence. Again, emotional intelligence is very important. With the world of work, where organizations are becoming flatter and need to work collaboratively, emotional intelligence is key. And I don't want to waste a lot of time on the elements of emotional intelligence. There is self-awareness there, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social aspects. And these characteristics, if you see them, they resonate very well with unpredictable environments. In the world of work now, especially here in Africa, the environments are going to continue to be unpredictable. If you want to be a leader that likes predictable environments, you are in a wrong place. Environments are going to be unpredictable. Environments are going to continue to be non-linear, and therefore we need emotional intelligence in that aspect. If you are a strong believer of 1 + 1 = 2, if you use that approach, you are doomed. You should be aware that 1 + 1 can be equal to 4, can be equal to 5, can be equal to 6. Somebody can look at you, he smiles when he's actually not smiling. And in order for you to cope up with this kind of scenarios, you need high levels of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is really something that is synonymous to a chameleon's behavior. A chameleon, if it goes to banana leaves, it will be like banana leaves. If it goes to a yellow environment, it will look yellow. If it goes, and it does that for a certain purpose. And that's what leadership is all about. Great organizations embrace and welcome change and mutating problems. Problems are always changing and require a leadership mindset of openness, deliberative approaches, and continuous learning. We continue to learn. That is why this kind of learning we are doing now, we did it as an experiment, but we are requiring every leader at every level to evolve this kind of approach. Of course, if you are going to encourage continuous learning, that is the role of the leader. The role of the manager, the role of the leader is to evolve a culture of continuous learning in your respective units of operation. I expect you, maybe we are doing it now on Friday. This is Friday 4 to 5 to 6. You also need to have a day when you can talk to your people. Talk to your people so that National Water can eventually be a strong learning organization, because organizations have moved from good to great because of that continuous learning culture. Now, there's something very good up there, that people have one thing in common. They are all different. So people don't need to look alike. You are going to have people who are very fast, who are very good. You also have some people who are slow, some people who are antagonistic, some people who, who have different ways of working. Forget about their differences in the physical outlook. But even the hearts are different, the heads are different. So people in your team who directly report to you and who meet your selection criteria do not have to look alike, do not have to act alike, do not have to behave alike. So when you see people different, don't threaten to resign because people are different. People will always be different. People, rather getting people with complementary and diverse skills is important. There's when a person is lazy, okay, very slow, but he's a pleaser. He's the one who brings happiness in your place. I see it in this institution. You see somebody saying this person is slow, is this, but when he laughs, he brings happiness. When people are in the break time, he talks nicely. So people will have different ways they are contributing to the success of a team. A good manager must mix and match talents, experiences, and backgrounds. Your work as a leader, as a manager, is to mix and match talents. If there's a person who is good at making people happy, then you get this one who is a runner. He runs. When he settles, this one who is supposed to cheer him up comes. And in that, you'll have a very well-balanced team and a productive team for that matter. You must also consider personality types to ensure that you have people who are different enough to ignite creative thinking. When people think differently, there will be positive conflicts at the workplace. And these positive conflicts can potentially bring creative thinking. Of course, then you have to keep harmony at the workplace. The work of a leader is to see these conflicts, to pretend these conflicts, these positive conflicts, and see how he or she can get the best invention or creative output that can help the organization. You must also help your team to think horizontally. Thinking horizontally means your team should look beyond itself, beyond and look at other teams within the organization and even other teams in other organizations outside your own organization. So your team might be situated in one ecosystem of different teams with their own identities, goals, priorities, and work patterns. Your role as a leader is to help team members to work horizontally with those other teams. Even when they don't report to you, even if those teams don't report to you, your work is to help your team members to work with those ones, with those people. And the most important questions you as a team leader must ask include, what do those other teams, what do you need to collaborate with them? Or in what things do you need to cooperate with them in order to have an impact and get results? 2, what do we need from those teams and how does that fit in their priorities? Because if what you need from there does not fit in their priorities, they will not have enough motivation to collaborate with you. So if you are lucky that the people's priorities somehow have an intersection with yours, you capitalize on that intersection and you see how you can derive the most benefit. And what is the best way to operate on the same wavelength? How do you make sure that when a person is collaborating with you in those other teams, they don't think you are wasting their time? And this is a common problem. Somebody comes here, can I see you? Can I come and we discuss this? And then when you are discussing something, it is completely outside the scope of your priorities. And eventually it becomes a waste of time, of your time. In normal ways, this would have been consultancy. So if you want to collaborate with other teams without the feeling, even if you don't pay consultancy, but if your way of collaboration was that consultancy fee should have been paid, you don't expect maximum cooperation from those other teams. Invest in building social capital. This is something the managers who are listening to us, especially area managers and general managers, should invest in. A good manager must seek support from external networks to help in the grounding of the organization. When the areas, when I visit them, where stakeholders are, I always get positive feedback from the stakeholders. And the reason is that you've been networking very well. So networking is key. Now, that social capital helps to mobilize stakeholders to buy in, not only in your achievements, but also in the challenges facing you. Like if you don't have water because the source has dried or is about to dry, the stakeholders will help to explain this to the people, and people will bear with you. I know I have had situations whereby when I go, the complaint is we don't have enough water, but we are very happy with the national water. So how do you become happy with the national water when you don't have enough water? You can see that what mediates these two extremes is this social capital the management team in that area has built for some time. And it is extremely very important because it gives you space to implement improvement measures or remedial measures to solve problems. The long-term sustainability of an organization depends so much on the social capital invested by the manager. And as you know, the tools for doing this include, you have to do corporate social responsibility. Once in a while, we help you to, for example, construct toilets in your respective areas. Not because toilets is part of our value proposition, but because we want to build social capital with the environment, with the neighborhood authorities. Others are participating in other stakeholder functions. In those areas, for example, if they have council meetings, you participate there. You tell them what you do. If people have weddings of important people, you attend them as a manager. You don't say, I have nothing to do with your wedding. If they have a function like Independence Day or these days which people celebrate, if it was not COVID, you make sure you attend and make a modest contribution there, showing humility and concern to problems facing stakeholders. If somebody comes to your office, you see how you can show humility and how you show concern that you bother or you mind about those problems. I want to conclude by saying that authentic leadership plays a key role in enhancing organizational effectiveness. This menu of things, of concepts we have presented is extremely very important. You may not have to apply everything, but at least you just need to know that they are there. And in order to do this entails getting great people on board to help in executing the strategy and achieving great results. You notice that there were a few rather key themes that I highlighted here. One of them was building and empowering teams. That is what every manager, every leader must focus on. Fostering teamwork. Teamwork is extremely very important. Performance feedback, giving feedback to your employees how they're working. Unbiased feedback, feedback which everybody will listen to and know that this is honest feedback. Developing a mix of talents, evolving an incentives philosophy, and having a culture of discipline. There are some concluding quotes there. The first one, authentic leadership is revealed in the alignment of what you think, what you say, and what you do. If somebody would want to assess your authentic leadership, he will look at what you think, what you say, and what you do. And you will know whether you are authentic or not. Authentic leadership is at the root of cultures of great innovation. Companies which are great innovators, they use a lot of authentic leadership. Engagement, outstanding client experiences, and growth. These are really key words that characterize organizations that have become great. Authentic leadership is the full expression of me for the benefit of we. Authentic leadership is about you as a person and how you benefit the rest of the people, me and we. The power of authentic leadership is found not in external arrangements, but in the human heart. So I want to really thank all the listeners and encourage you that these things, we don't say them because we want you to go and implement them 100%. But we want you to be aware. We want you to know what to do your own self-assessment and know where you are. Because if you don't do that, if you don't know where you should be as a leader, we shall not get the best out of you. These materials, we rush through them, but they are on the website www.silvermugisha.com. I put them there on my website for you to be able to access them. Both the presentation and the narrative are all there. You can check them and have your own other research about them, because we are only ushering our people into the spirit of learning how to learn. Learning how to learn. We are not here really to give you everything. We are here to just say, please, if you go this way, you might learn a lot of things. So please, let's develop this culture of learning as an institution. We become a strong learning institution. And from there, we shall be able to take national water to greater heights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, MD, for this very instructive presentation on authentic leadership and organizational effectiveness. Indeed, National Water is a working organization, but it's also a thinking organization and a learning organization. We thank you for encouraging us, encouraging the heart, helping us to train our minds, and also helping to realign our mindsets. I would like to thank each and every one of the 233 people who are with us here today. I noticed that some of you have logged in using your device names. Please log in and edit so that you have your correct name there. It makes it easier for us to deal with you and respond to the questions that you have. And for the members of staff who have logged in, this is part of the attendance, so it's better when your name is there, because we would like to give you certificates to recognize your participation in this series. That is going to help us become better and appreciate the world we work in much better. We are going to the discussion session. The discussion, and the discussant is one of us. She's been in National Water for 29 years now, a very grounded scientist, an expert in water quality. She's a consummate trainer and an expert in institutional development. She's an international trainer. She's also a consultant in many different places and an international civil servant in the water sector. I'd like to welcome Dr. Rose Kagwa. The floor is yours. Please give us your take on authentic leadership and how it helps us improve organizational effectiveness. Thank you very much, Dr. Rose. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you very much, Dr. Engineer Silva, our MD, for such an elaborate and power-packed presentation on authentic leadership. I hope you can all hear me. Good afternoon to all who have tuned in. The MD started with the slide and which set the focus for us as NWSC as we think about authentic leadership in enhancing the managerial role, the whole issue of the Sustainable Development Goals. And as we are all aware, our main contribution is to SDG 6, the water and sanitation services. When we look at what the world is telling us now, we predict, and they predict that by 2050, a quarter of the population will still suffer water shortages. In Africa, we coined the term leave no one behind. And I believe that is the same approach that we have in NWSC to ensure that the population gets services, gets access to water and storage services, sanitation in whole. Right now, we stand at a coverage of about 85% for water. And we know on the side of storage services, we are still a bit low, but in terms of sanitation as a country, we are also making great strides in achieving that. So we definitely cannot just pat ourselves on the back and say by 2030, we will have achieved as a country, but as National Water, we know we have a contribution to that. The COVID-19 pandemic has put a spotlight on WASH. And we begin to grapple and ask ourselves, how do we achieve the SDGs? And one of the things that has come out very clearly also within this series is that we need leaders. And the concept of authentic leadership is really part of the whole story. It's a Greek philosophy, which the Greeks say, to thine own self, be true. And the MD has elaborated to us what authentic leadership is. And I tried to look at some other literature to see what else do they say about that. Authentic leadership can make a fundamental difference in organizations. And I underline the word fundamental, by helping the leaders and the staff find meaning and connection at work. Through greater self-awareness, the MD has talked about that, building optimism, even amidst challenges. And I think we have seen that even in this COVID-19 pandemic, through the need of, through the creativity and innovation that we've continued to have, building confidence and hope, building the teams, making decisions that help our customers build trust and also ourselves, commitment amongst ourselves, and then create the positive climates. And we talk a lot about our work relationships. One of the aspects that the MD has highlighted is keeping institutional memory. And for me, I think that is very important. Of course, as we grow older, many of us, our memory begins to fade. As NWSC, we've tried to achieve this through many ways, and some of them you may not think about them every day, but documentation, we've tried to document many of our things, our procedures, our processes. We've had publications. Again, our MD has led on that, on the National Water Story. We have our Water Herald that comes out. We have very many video recordings of activities and events, our WhatsApp platforms, papers that are written in journals. This helps to keep our institutional memory and the lifestyle that we have as National Water. As MD highlighted, the issue of self-awareness is a lot to do with being true to oneself. And one of these, as he mentioned, was the continuous feedback, which we must give at all levels. And this is very important. We try and strive to do this through our appraisal system, but sometimes our appraisal system is just an email from Eunice reminding us, please provide feedback on your IPAs. And then people say, oh, that is Eunice's thing again. But we need to know that it's very important for us to always appraise and provide feedback. We have adopted the 360 appraisal system, which is very good, sometimes leading us to being criticized. And again, we've said criticism is very good. Sometimes it's brutal and we must embrace it. Personally, I have faced this even up to the board level, where I've been grilled and sometimes gone back, very annoyed, but this has helped me to dig deeper into who I am, what am I doing, and how am I doing this? And at all times, we need to take this criticism positively. There's a person who says that leaders who do not listen will eventually be surrounded by people who have nothing to say. And that is very important. I'd like to move to the other aspect that I thought I could say something about, the high spirit of practicing values and principles. And as National Water, we know that we have practiced and we do continue to practice, values and principles, and it's one of our drivers. If this were not true, then I think at the time when we faced the vacuum in leadership, you recall, for some of you who have been here a bit longer, the time when we had no substantive MD and no board for almost 2 years, people were asking us, how come work is going on? How come, some people out there didn't even know that that was happening. And this was because the issue of leadership had spilled over, not just at board and MD level, but also gone down to various levels. And this is what we are trying to inculcate here. Even during this COVID pandemic, we proudly stand as NWSC to say that we can now serve a population of 15 million people. And we know that we are going to grow this even further. Another aspect is the issue of internal and external motivations. Leaders, I think we sometimes have to remind ourselves that we do not live on desert islands alone. In other words, we need the people around us. If you don't have people around you, then who are you leading? The issue of the open door policy, and MD mentioned clearly that that's not just about having your door open for people to come in and out, but learning to be attentive to the needs and contributions of the staff. And as I was preparing to respond to this, the word followers came in, and for that, I think it almost hit me for the first time what really, because MD always talks about followers, what followers are, the difference between staff and followers. When it comes to building the work-life balance, again, the organization has helped us, and we have the medical scheme. And that, I think, has proven very, very important during this COVID pandemic. The Provident Fund, WASE, and other forms that have helped us strengthen this culture. But as leaders, we also need to go back and see, how do we help ourselves, our followers, our staff? In the BSS Directorate, we this year thought about how do we help develop ourselves. We are at different levels. How do we get people to buy land? So some are still renting, others are trying to build. And we came up with an idea, let's set up a group, an investment group, where we can discuss issues of land, opportunities, share our experiences, good and bad. It's at the infant level, but we hope to build it. And that's one way of also taking people outside their work environment. The issue of enhancing effectiveness of the organization and balancing between pleasing people and driving performance is sometimes it's not an easy one, and it's something that we have to practice and learn. I, for one, and for those who know me, I am result oriented. And sometimes I'm on the go, 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 go. At times I feel I am pushing, I am pulling, I am stepping on people's feet, and I'm trying to get these results. And I, at times, have to step back and remind myself that maybe the approach I'm using is not really working. How do I then balance between pleasing the people and getting the work done? Sometimes I just have to move on, and some people may not be happy about it. But again, leaders have to get to that point when they make decisions. On giving feedback, I step back and recall my mom looking at my dad, whom she used to call GW, my mom, may she rest in peace, and asking him, so you don't have the word thank you in your vocabulary? Especially when she has cooked a good meal. We asked our dad, what's wrong with you? Why can't you say thank you? And he said, I know she cooks very well, so that's what I expect every time. So there is no need for the thank you. But genuine feedback, and MD mentioned it. For some of us, we are very blunt. You say it as it is. Sometimes in a very coarse, acidic way. And we have to learn to tone down. Some of us think that if I use body language, it will show that person that I'm not happy with what they have done. But it's important to give this verbal feedback, to sit down and exchange in order for us to enhance productivity and performance. When it comes to us being a learning organization, National Water, we pride ourselves in that. And I think that's not only us, other people have recognized us as a learning organization. So as leaders, we have to continue learning, building the skills, the competences. And again, as an organization, we've strived, we have the vocational training, we have the training, we are retooling, we are reading, but as individuals, to what limits do we continue to be learning individuals in order to become better and greater leaders? Reading articles, listening to the news and knowing what is happening around you, knowing what's happening in the sector, and also reaching out for other training opportunities is very important for us. When it comes to maximizing people's potential, again, the MD highlighted very important aspects under that. And I just stepped back and thought about twins. And I said, these twins, actually they are twins, some are identical, but they are actually not born at the same time. In other words, even if you have identical twins, they are still different. How do we look at what is strong within a person and complement it with the weakness of the other, and take the strength of the weakness, the person who is weaker, and complement it with the strength of that one who may be weak in that aspect? I think as ladies, we are very good with this. We do what we call mix and match. You stand in a mirror, you look at yourself, and you mix and match, and you come out looking brilliant. This is an art that we also have to practice with our teams in trying to mix and match and get the most out of people. In any case, all of us, we are still potential in progress, potential for something else. The other aspect is the encouraging the horizontal thinking. And this is something that has come clearer to me and my team this year. As we faced the lockdown, as we grappled with how to monitor and supervise areas, we sat down and said, but why don't we work as joint teams? And I pulled together the team from P&CD operations, the region, static plant, and water quality to start having joint visits to areas, joint action plans that help us deal with the short-term, medium, and long-term interventions. And this has helped us to also build our teams. Under external services, we try to seek and look for partnerships with other institutions that can help bridge and build the gaps that we have in the capacities within us as National Water. And through these partnerships, we also make gains. Now, as a discussant, I wanted to throw just two different angles out. And I had invited Mahmoud Butaya to bring into more context consistency as a characteristic of authentic leadership, and what has helped him as the GM of Kampala Water Metropolitan to motivate his staff and ensure performance with a focus on the vision that we all have: water for all, leave no one behind. Mahmoud, very briefly, your thoughts on this. Is Mahmoud on? Yeah.
Yes, Mahmoud is on.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rose. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank our dear MD for the initiative first, but most importantly for unpacking a very complex topic. I think when you read a lot and you go online and you start searching about authentic leadership, you can get so many definitions and so many perspectives around it. And it becomes, now the challenge is putting it to context of how you're supposed to utilize it in an organization. And I think that's the biggest challenge anyone would have. You end up being theoretical if you're not very careful. So I think the way MD has put into context most of these series, from the first session to the one on mindset to this particular one, I think it's first of all, it's very interesting, but also most importantly, very benefiting to the team in the corporation. And I think for us in Kampala Water, I'm sure most of my team is online. We are benefiting a lot from it. And actually, our intention is that we don't want to just leave it in this room, but we take it forward to our day-to-day operations. What MD highlighted, what I pick most, what authentic leadership is all about is in two things: what you think, what you say, and what you do. And then he crowned it all by also the knowing and acting on what is real and important and true to the world. That is very important. So there's no way you can just act on what you think and what you believe without understanding what is happening around you. And with all that, if you want to be authentic, there are two things. You have to have the heart and the head. And for me personally, when I reflect, because sometimes some of the things we do them unconsciously, but when I reflect on National Water as an institution, it's a very authentic institution. I think 6 years ago, you could argue the discussion was never about water for all. I think our discussion as far as performance was concerned, we always post how profitable we are as an institution. But I think in the authenticity in the leadership was demonstrated by us scanning the environment around us and realizing that what was real and important to the world was not about how profitable you are, but it was about the SDGs in this particular case. And that's why since then, the focus is all about water for all. And I think, again, the authenticity is tested not in just stating the term water for all, but first of all in the belief, because I strongly believe from the MD to the board and all the staff, we believe in water for all. Not as the word sounding good, but the fact that as an institution, we can deliver water for all and make people better by the service we provide. And that is reflected in the way we've committed our resources and the message that has continuously been put forward by the MD and the board. Water for all means that, what does it mean? It means that our focus is on, we have to lay pipes, reach as many people as possible. We have to expand to as many towns in the corporation as possible. And by doing all that, we're pushing the vision of the corporation of reaching everyone. And that is authenticity. And people have believed, they've responded, because we talk about it, we believe it, we walk it, and we deliver. And then people believe in us. There's a meeting we attended, I think it was a conference in SA, in South Africa, where they talked about what a brand is. And we always want to have National Water as a great brand. And people believe a brand is having a nice logo. This gentleman defined a brand in form of a promise, that when you promise something and you deliver it, then you create a strong brand. And I think that's where National Water is really ticking, that we promise and we deliver. And that's why I think we get very positive feedback from most of the stakeholders. And that's what, again, authenticity is all about. It's being real and true to whatever you do. So in Kampala Water, and for most of us and my team, when we talk, when we say something, when we say water for all, we don't just say because it's in the corporate plan, but we reflect it in the way we act and the way we serve our customers. And the fact that you want to rally every staff to respond to customers' needs in a very genuine way. Right now we have, with Katosi on board, we made a promise and a commitment to the staff and to the customers that once Katosi is on board, we'll make sure that everyone in Kampala has water. Now that is a promise we made. Now the test of our authenticity is in delivering that promise. And I think what you're seeing right now is a team that is trying to authenticate our existence, that when we promise something to the customers, we're able to deliver it to the full. And I think as a team, we're not going to rest. until we're sure that people get the service. Right now, we have a number of customers that are paid, and we have committed that within next month, we have to have them connected. Again, that is when you promise and you believe in what you're promising and you act on it, that is being authentic. So I think the idea, the whole lessons we pick from this is that some of these terms are very interesting and they are very good at when you listen to them. But I think the most important thing is how are you able to apply them in your day-to-day life? And I think this topic is very, very important and very relevant to our operations. So Dr. Rose.
Thank you very much, Mahmoud. And I think you have ably alluded to the fact that in everything we do, we need to be authentic. As I draw to the end of my thoughts, I wanted to again look at what is happening in the organization. We have new cities, and GM Ginger, you are heading a city now. It still needs infrastructure enhancement. And we have also known that we cannot meet the SDGs without leaders. I wanted you just to share with us, how are you mobilizing partnerships, at the same time empowering and motivating your staff to deliver as you practice the tenets of authentic leadership? Over to you, Dr. Charles. Very briefly. Dr. Charles, I see talking is permitted. I don't know if you're unmuted. Dr. Charles, are you unmuted?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Please proceed. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. I want to start by thanking the MD and thanking you, Dr. Rose, and everyone who has tuned in. And thank you.
I think, Sam, we have lost Charles, so maybe he will come in later at the. I would like, in order to save time, I just wanted to end with a quote. And even as I end the quote, again, to thank the MD for bringing this very loaded topic on board. And I think it's given us a lot of food for thought on how we can go back and rally our teams and ourselves to be authentic leaders. When we think of authentic leaders, I think of Martin Luther King, a person who once said that a genuine leader is not a searcher of consensus, but a molder of consensus. Sam, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ross, for the discussion, which was also interactive. This is a part of the innovative spirit of National Water and Sewerage Corporation. It's the one which distinguishes it from other organizations and helps us achieve landmark by landmark all the time. I would like to recognize the presence of one of our board members, Mr. Stephen Basari Zamwesige. He comments that he says we should never fear criticism. He is very happy to be attending these very instructive training sessions. And as the board, they will support management to do whatever it takes to continue with this capacity building for the managers and all the leaders of our organization. We are now going to go into the question and answer session, because this is the spirit, this is the nature of this presentation. This is the nature of this leadership series, that we must learn from each other, that we must interact. So we have some questions. One of the very first questions came from Sandy Apio. She says, the management is not easy. How do you advise a leader to manage the stress that comes with his or her position and responsibilities. And then Winnie Eresi said that one of the biggest challenges I see is that there is lack of personal development among staff and workers. There is indeed a need for mindset change. How can the leadership of National Water help people to bring about this mindset change? And then another question was that from the presentation, it is clear that personal character defines authentic leadership. How do the personal character and the mannerisms of a leader affect authentic leadership? I think let's first take those ones and then we answer another set of questions. Thank you very much. MD.
Sam, can you answer the last question?
The last question about personal character and mannerisms. Yes, sir. Yes. Like we said at the beginning, authentic leadership is about how you think, what you actually know, and what you eventually end up doing. But all of these do not hang in a vacuum. They are anchored along what you intend to do. What do you exist to? So for example, in National Water, we all exist to do one thing, to provide people with water. If you're a leader, you have your personal characteristics. You will know some things about yourself which are very strong. You will also know certain elements about your character which may not be very strong, but you align them in order to achieve the goals, so that everybody sees that the things that we want to do, if we say our job is to give people water for all the things that we do are authentically aligned to that. That when the leader is talking to the staff, he's talking to the staff and genuinely radiating that vision, that this is what we want to do. So even when they are allocating the budgets for the work, they are not allocating for their personal character traits and what. So it is about understanding yourself, understanding what you want to do, and doing what you will eventually do that is grounded on the goal and the aim of the organization. So know yourself, but use yourself and your character traits to push the organization and also motivate the leaders, the people behind you to follow you and keep pushing in that direction. With those very few words, that is my attempt at answering that question.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Thank you very much. Now, I want to ask, is the general manager of Mbarara online? Is Francis logged in? If Francis is logged in, I want, or whoever is there should tell him that I want him to answer the question on management of stress. In the meantime, I'm going to ask Fisher, who is here with me, to answer the question of personal development among staff. How can it be done?
Hello. Thank you so much, MD. Thank you so much. Let's see. Your first question of personal development. I believe that a leader is supposed to encourage his people to even be better than him. Because if you want to grow people to do for you work and be better than according to the results that you expect, I think a leader is supposed to encourage people to go to school, get new knowledge, attend these kind of series and training sessions. A leader should be able to provide learning opportunities. For example, if opportunities come for him himself, he can even offer some to his teammates. so that they can be better and improve themselves. I believe that a leader also should be able to delegate. Also, that's part of learning. You should be able to delegate work so that the members can be able to do the work maybe better than him, or maybe to learn from him. And that's all part of the training session. So I believe that personal development is an ongoing process every day. And the leader is supposed to continuously do this on a daily basis and continue to help his people be better than him or her. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we try to democratize the answering of questions, but I think one of the things, definitely we all understand that authentic leadership helps us to manage stress. One of the starting points is that first of all, you need to know that stress is part of management. It is part of what will confront you at the workplace. And you just have to understand the causes. And one of the ways, the best ways of managing stress is to understand the causes and come to live with them. There are things, for example, I've told you that if failures come, you don't have to die because failures have come. If something which is disruptive has come, you just have to know that it is okay for disruptions to come, and you live with it. So the beginning point is for you to be comfortable with things that bring stress. Now, when you are comfortable with them, of course, then you have to give yourself some time off to do exercises. Like in national water, whenever if I have a problem during the day that brings stress, one of the things I do is when I go home, I do exercise. And that helps to relieve you of some stress. And also putting some time off to talk to members of your family on other topics other than this one, the cause of the stress. And sometimes also sharing the issue that has brought stress with your family members or with the people whom you trust in, or even some people who can give you some consolation, helps you. But also, most importantly, networks can be quite good. So that's why I said you need to invest in networks. When you have networks, those are very good shock absorbers for stress. So I think there are many tools that can be used to manage stress. You can also take off some leave days to go and relax. But for me, the biggest lesson I would share with my friends is that there are things which you must be comfortable with, like getting a feedback of any sort from anybody. Now we have told you, good and bad feedback are all very important. What you call bad feedback can actually present you opportunities to learn certain things that can make the organization better. So once you are comfortable with that, you have seen of recent the people who are writing in the social media about all sorts of things about national water. Some of us take those things as normal. We take them as normal. But if you have also been having a good network, they will help to console you, and then you move on. And then, of course, if you have also built a team, which again is part of authentic leadership, having a good team, they help you to manage some of those things that cause stress. So it is all about surrounding yourself with things that make you comfortable, which might mean taking leave, which might mean exercising. If you are a good swimmer, swimming is a very good stress reliever. There's nothing water cannot wash away. If you go in the water there, you tend to shed off the stress. And people who praying is also very, very good. If you get a very good pastor who can pray for you. Those are things that can help you to manage stress. Is the general manager Mbarara online? If he's not online, is Jude Moga online? Jude Moga, is he online? Eh?
Yes, Jude is online.
Jude Moga, can you discuss for us the question on personal development again? Yeah, maybe it's not. But what I've always told people, and maybe what I still need to emphasize, is that if leaders or managers don't create enough incentives for people to feel that they are developing personally, that's a bit of a problem. Those people will be a source of insecurity to the organization, to their fellow leaders. They will also be less productive. Now, I have advised, and I want to still advise everybody who is listening to me, that let's encourage our people to try to have the basic necessities. Something like housing. Housing is a basic necessity. And the salaries we pay in national water, if you are very good in financial management issues, you can give yourself 2 or 3 years. And that can normally be shortened, of course, by getting a loan facility. You don't have to steal. You don't have to even think that maybe what the MD has, you should also have, or maybe the DMD or whoever, because these people have been around for so long. You, at your own level, manage your personal development. Now, the leaders, what you need to do is to have that mindset that people need to develop. The only thing a person benefits from an institution personally is issues to do with his or her personal development. And if there's anything you can do to enable a staff to get facilitated with a loan facility, for example, to help him or her put up a shelter, that's okay. If a staff is married, you can also advise the staff on how he can partner with the spouse to pool resources to put up that. Otherwise, most people, and from my rule of thumb observation in the corporation, more than 70% of the staff are disoriented. They want to go to the beach and enjoy. They want to go and drink. On Saturday, they want to go and they call it happening. They want to go and happen. And as they happen, the happiness, they accumulate the happiness just like the recent COVID spikes. And when the happiness goes, they are just there at home. And then they start rumor mongering. They start taking photographs of staff who have been disciplined and they have managed to do something for themselves. And that's not good. So managers, you need to bring your people together. I'm very happy with what Dr. Rose is doing of forming an investment club. Forming an investment club, not only for pooling resources, but also for pooling ideas on how you can develop yourself. The other disorientation our people normally have is they tend to overinvest in accumulating qualifications, academic qualifications. In national water, we don't need academic qualifications. We need the know-how of people. So if you have a first degree, you have a master's, we don't need your master's. Your master's is your personal business. But we need what your master's can do. That's what we need in the corporation. Now, you need to achieve a certain optimum level of qualifications and also look at other issues to do with your personal development. Definitely, if you don't have a stable family, you have a problem with your spouse, you don't have a home you are renting, you are also moving in Uber, everything is you are renting, and you depend on other people. I don't think you'll be stable in the home. Unfortunately, some of our people, they don't even know that they have problems. When somebody is renting, he or she doesn't know that that's a problem. We are not saying that people should not rent, but as you rent, you need to have a roadmap for having your own shelter, by not going into dubious means, but by going through proper means, but by exploiting the benefit of discipline, so that you can develop yourself. Some people think it's a lot of money. I just want to give you a simple example. A normal house, like for example, for a marketing assistant in National Water, would probably not cost more than 40 million. I don't think it would cost more than 40 million. And if you want to believe in what I'm saying, a house which you construct with 100 bags of cement, 100 bags of cement is actually 3 million Uganda shillings. So if you have 100 bags of cement, you have maybe about 10 trips of sand, which is about 2 million. You have maybe iron sheets. An iron sheet is 50,000. A house where you use 40 iron sheets is a big house. So that is about 2 million. So you can see that the 40 million, you basically have a house. It includes even buying a plot in there. So people, but that what I'm saying is what the manager now should give to the staff. To say, look, with 40 million, you can put up a house. You don't have to use a contractor like Rocco. You can sit at home, watch what is happening, and eventually have a house. So the moment and I would encourage everybody, our different management units, to form those investment clubs, so that you can easily exchange ideas and enable our people to have decent living as part of their personal development. I think that is all, Sam.
Thank you very much. There are still some questions and comments. I'll quickly go through them. Cindy Apio says, how can leaders strike a balance between business success and their people? I think some of those answers have even been given in the discussion, the foregoing discussion. And then Winnie Heresi asks, what can you do when a leader is segregative and yet the entire team needs the support of the leader? Then Natukunda Evelyn asks, can everyone be a leader? Can everyone be a leader? And then Ishmael Kwesegomhanj says, these sessions are great. It will help National Water to develop leaders inside National Water, but it will also help us to develop leaders outside National Water. He wants to know if this is going to be continuous or it's only for a short time. Are we going to continue, or this will just be for a short time? And then there's another question. No, these are just comments. Doreen Kakaija says, a leader should be a problem solver all the time. And then Susan asks, how does having personal goals help one become a better leader? Is it important for everyone to have personal goals? And how do those personal goals help them to become better leaders? Pius Nyanzi just comment saying, leadership relies on continuous learning, thinking, and adapting to complex environments. I think we'll answer those ones, and then we move to the next session. Please continue sending questions. We'll take all of them, and some will even be answered after. Thank you, MD.
Thank you, Sam. I don't want to be a jack of all trades of answering everything. The next set of questions I will ask Rose to prepare yourself. So when they ask them, you write them down and also answer them. But let me answer these ones. How can leaders strike a balance between organization and its people? I think this is what we have been talking about. We've said that this is actually the main question of a leader. And the mindset we are trying to evolve here is that when the organization wins, the people must also win. And there are tools for this. One of them is for example, the incentive system we use in national water is meant to do that. The incentive system we use in national water is the principle is when performance improves, you pay part of the gains to the staff in terms of performance. So that's one of the tools. The other one is the provident fund. The provident fund, the staff contributes some money, the organization also contributes some money for purposes of assuring our staff that they can easily have a predictable retirement life, or a life that we can make a contribution to. The other one is the parties. The parties we normally make. For example, at the end of the year, last year we didn't make parties because of COVID, but the parties are supposed to mean that, okay, let's celebrate the achievements of the institution. Although those, if I was grading, I wouldn't grade that one at the level of a provident fund, for example, because you go and eat and drink and you go home. That's what you get. Or I wouldn't grade it at the level of the incentive, the monthly incentive which you get when you perform well. Because the monthly incentive, you can actually use it to develop yourself, to contribute towards building a shelter, to contribute towards buying a car if you want, or a motorcycle, that kind of thing. So every leader must look at how the organization wins and how the staff win if the organization wins. What can you do when a leader is segregating? These training sessions are actually meant for such people who are segregative when they are in leadership positions. In what we normally do in national water here is, this is not supposed to be, I hope the one who is asking it is not, this is not perceived segregation. But if it is genuine segregation, that a leader is there, he only gives things to certain group of people and not others, then I invite that leader to tap into some of these series and learn how to build teams. Because then how do you build a team when you are segregating? So being segregative has never been a productivity driver. Although that is different from looking at, there is what I've been telling you people, the 10% core, the 20% core. That's also a productivity management tool, that if you have 10% of your workers that are giving 90% of the output, it is extremely important that such people are compensated slightly differently from the others. How would you want, for example, that not to be applied? If you have a group of employees, 20 employees, 2 or 3 of them, they spend all the time drinking, they don't work, and then you have one who is very committed at the workplace. So where there is equity, equity means people are compensated depending on their input in producing the output. That is not called segregation. Segregation is this unprincipled compensation of people because of other considerations other than the considerations of contributing to the output, organizational output. And I think in designing the equation to solve this, the leader must differentiate, must make a distinction between unprincipled considerations and then principled and well-calculated considerations. Because it would also be very unfair, a person who is very committed and very productive in the institution, if he's compensated the same way like a free riding employee, that is actually a higher form of segregation. So it is a matter of equity and not equality. So let's always be careful and differentiate between these two terms, equity and equality. That when the incentive comes, we should divide it equally. But when it comes to contributing the output, there should be somebody who should contribute more than the other one. And that's not good. Can everyone be a leader? Yes, everyone can be a leader. It is just the investment you make to be a good leader. And one of the things we are doing to enable you to do this are some of these capacity building programs and more capacity building programs that are coming. Is this going to be continuous? Yes, this is going to be continuous. It may, we are going to see how to do it to make it continuous. It does not mean that it is going to be every week. It can also mean that we are going to have 4 weeks. After that, we break. Later on, we start like that. So, but the spirit of making sure that there is a continuous learning process in the institution is there, and it is even well enshrined within our corporate plan. A leader should be a problem solver, that is agreed. You should be a problem solver, but you can also, it is the mode of problem solving that is important. You cannot, I hope you are not saying that a leader should himself or herself be a problem solver, a hands-on person. A leader can do that through delegation. I think there is a saying that the end justifies the means. What is important is the problem should be solved, and the leader plays the role of refereeing to make sure that eventually the problem is solved. Is it important for everyone to have personal goals for personal development? Yes. Personal goals is one of the most powerful tools of ensuring that there is personal development. If you ask people to have their personal goals, to have their own visions of what they want to be in the next 5 to 10 years, or maybe even 15, and then the strategy they want to use. Remember, I said the strategy is a coordinated vector of actions that you need to take to achieve your vision. So if the staff can have these personal goals, and I think that's the next level of human resource management we should go to as a corporation, that we should encourage the staff to have personal goals. We share with those personal goals with them, and we ask them what they are going to do personally to achieve their own goals, and what kind of assistance they need from the organization to be able to achieve those goals. I think for me, once we get committed to that approach, we should be able to manage productivity in the institution more sustainably. Okay, Sam?
Thank you very much, MD. The next set of questions will go directly to Dr. Rose. And the first question is, what are some of the occupational hazards faced by successful, authentic leaders? What should managers do to contain these hazards? And then the second question is from Israel Akujiziwe. He says, how do authentic leaders deal with the staff who detach themselves from teamwork? How do managers deal with staff who detach themselves from teamwork? And then the final question is, how do you manage staff diversity and differences in temperament in an organization? Thank you very much. Dr. Rose, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam, and the four of us the questions. How do you manage staff diversity? As we said already, no one is the same, and we all have different temperaments, and we have to learn how to balance those temperaments. I give the example, and I draw it out a bit from myself, someone who always wants to have things done in, in a certain way, in a fixed way. And sometimes that comes into your way when you're trying to get things done as a leader. The temperaments are different. There are those who pay too much attention to detail, and there are those who don't pay attention to detail at all. To manage a diverse staff, we already talked about trying to maximize the potential of each person, knowing that everybody has strengths and everyone has weaknesses, and trying to balance those two. The MD already shared with us, and all of us have seen, sometimes we have staff and you feel that one is not going to, can't deliver this, can't deliver that, can't deliver this. Instead of looking at they can't, we need to look at what can they do? What can this person do? And take that they can do and put them where they can actually do. Because sometimes we get boxed into the job descriptions that we have, yeah? That someone is an engineer, and so by the virtue that he's an engineer, he must maybe go in and solve the engineering problem. And you may find that that person has a limitation there, but could be able to do something else very good and very well. And so you allow them. It doesn't mean that at the end of the day, you ignore the fact that this person is a trained engineer. You have to try and see what aspects of engineering can I build around this person. And it is taking that and broadening that. So we need to learn who our staff are, what are they good at, what is their temperament, how do you make them tick, how do you tone down something that is a bit, too much on one side, and how do you draw and bring the balance in. How do we deal with staff who detach themselves from teamwork? This again calls for reaching out to that person and trying, one, to see why are they detaching themselves from this teamwork. Sometimes we just condemn people, but we may have tasks at hand and the person hasn't fully understood what they're supposed to do, and so they detach themselves. So we need to also go that extra mile to try and find out, why is this person detached? Is it a question of what we are supposed to do? Is it a question of not understanding? Is this person simply a dodger? And if they are a dodger, how do you bring them back in? When we are training and teaching and learning about change management, we talk about the different animals. And that's a situation we've had before. Different animals who do different things. The monkey who jumps around all the time, the lion who only wants to bark. At the end of the day, it's like going into a zoo. You go into a zoo, you have different types of animals, and you want all these animals to participate in something. So one has to look at, if you see a human being sliding away, we need to pull them in, to bring them in. Sometimes we have to confront them and be upfront with them that, you must join the team. But it doesn't mean that teams are always smooth riding. When you go to the football field, we used to have a guy called Sekatawa, those who are older. He used to run across the field with the ball until he scores. And he was within a team, the Uganda Cranes, and you would go to play a match and it's Sekatawa. You can imagine how the other people would feel. Strange enough, they would have to come back for the next football match, and the job of the coach was then to try to see how can Sekatawa realize that maybe he's the striker and he's not the defender. And that is how we have to work out with the teams. The last question was on occupational hazards facing successful leaders. The word occupational hazards, I was trying to wrap around what you actually meant by occupational hazards, but one that came out direct to me was Nugu. When people see someone successful, there is always that Nugu business that sometimes comes around and you want to pull people down. Also, sometimes when you're successful, you are faced with the challenge that you cannot afford to fail, because everyone is looking at you and they know that you are a successful person. So how can you, all of a sudden have a failure in what you are doing? And that could come out as a hazard. The other one is sometimes because you are successful, you are the one everyone goes to. And everything is around you. And you have to also get to a point when you have to say, let me step back and allow others to take the mantle or to go ahead and lead. Then the other hazard that could come, maybe I wouldn't call it an occupational hazard, is sometimes getting too full of yourself and you forget to know that actually there's still room for you to go higher and higher up the ladder. That would be my take on that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ross, for answering those questions. We are now entering conclusion mode. I would like to invite my colleague, Senior Manager, Programs and Performance Management. He prefers to be called Deo Gracias, because the Deo in short means God. Gracias means thankful, so his name means thankful to God. He's our manager, Programs and Performance Monitoring. Jude? So, Deo Gracias, please. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Our MD, thank you very much for unpacking part of the menu, because I know the menu is quite long, and Dr. Rose and the other discussants. Now, from the presentation and the unpacking of this menu of today, I feel like I've written a thesis, and I hope you'll bear with me for the next 5 minutes. And I think MD might ask what kind of thesis that is done in 5 minutes. But from what I've picked, I'll start with the organizational perspective. MD knocked on the issue of sustainable development goals. And if I quoted from the International Institute of Sustainable Development, an article that was written by Lynn Wagner, says that the essence of leadership for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, that was the title of the article. And one statement caught my eye in that article that said, innovative leadership and management will be essential for organizations in all sectors to integrate the SDGs into strategic plans and operational activities. I'm not going to re-echo what the lead presenter and the lead discussants have made, but rather more of a reflection on all of us in our respective capacities as leaders. If you call yourself a supervisor, you're definitely a leader. I know that while being an authentic leader can be difficult, the combination of professional approach with expression of our unique personality can help organizations to thrive. And what I pick from this and what this series have indicated to me is that as a leader or as a manager, whatever you like to call yourself, is that one of the key roles is to train, coach, and groom. And this helps build capacity and continuity. Even we who may consider ourselves leaders or supervisors in whatever capacity, but we now take the title of being leaders, although the question is how authentic we are. So we also learn from experience, past experiences, both good and bad. But most importantly, we should also know that we can learn from the people who we supervise or people we come across, all walks of life. Each and every person is unique in their own ways. So you can pick a thing or two from them. From the few trainings I've had, the statement that reverberates in my mind is that there are never bad teams, but rather bad leaders, which calls on us to reflect on ourselves in our respective capacities. And the questions that come into my mind, or the key points that have come into my mind, that as an individual that I may need to work on, and probably my other colleagues, you ask yourself a question as an authentic leader, or if I call myself an authentic leader, are people perceiving me as an imposter that is having no self-awareness and self-esteem? Am I a rationalist The thing is that we move away from values and then we look at rational lies just to justify our behavior sometimes. We can make or break if we are in positions of leadership, or are we in pursuit of glory, whereby we are motivated by self-aggrandization? Or are we loners? MD talked about social capital. Are we loners who do not know how to build relationships, which are essential for authentic leadership? That is very vital. So social capital, we cannot escape it in today's world. Therefore, we should never come across as fallen stars, managers without a balanced life outside work. And I think in the presentation that came out quite very, very clearly. So what does this call on us after we ask those questions of ours? 4 key points come into mind that we must always aim towards the end goal, and that is, what is the objective? And if we talk about the objective, it's not only in the perspective of the organization or as an individual, but if I looked at how do I realign the organizational needs, my personal needs, my personal presentation, but also serve the interests of the people that I lead. Now, this one here really caught my heart. And throughout the discussions, it has really echoed quite several times. Strengthening of fundamental values. And this one I had a small 2 sentences or 3 sentences I wrote down. That although different leaders have different values, all authentic leaders must adhere to a number of common values: to speak the truth, to act ethically, to be oriented towards results and success, and to lead workers to personal and professional development. Even when striving for the best results, do not allow these aspirations to come at the expense of your team's confidence and sense of competence. Then the third is, of course, maintaining self-discipline while keeping in line with what I've just talked about above. Now, there was emphasis on leading with being strong-headed, not big-headed, as MD put it clear, but also what is on your heart. So leading with your heart means that true leaders don't need authority or masks to motivate work processes. They are self-confident and conduct themselves in the organization with an open heart and a positive, engaging attitude. Leadership of the heart does not make us weak. On the contrary, it helps us inspire employees and instill confidence in strength and motivation to meet goals. In summary, I'd like to just read out a small quotation here about authentic leaders, and this is to do with the decisions. Basically, the decision you make, its outcomes, you'll have to take responsibility for them, and the repercussions, you'll definitely be accountable. So authentic leaders take decision-making seriously. Even when stakes seem low, they understand that some small choices can have a big impact on an individual, team, or organization. Authentic leaders are true to who they are, while insincere leaders often make decisions that are inconsistent or contradictory. Opening up these sessions, it means we're opening ourselves to the world. And therefore, this is a decision that was taken at strategic level, but with a view that you are benefiting not only the people who are attending, but this goes far and beyond national water. And that is the building of strategic alliances, both internally and externally. I would like to thank the lead discussant. I would like to thank the presenter and the originator of this series. And to my colleagues and all those who have tuned in, as the Baganda say, Gachari Mabaga, and the saying is that you akuwa magezi, asinga akuwa sente, meaning that that one who imparts you with the knowledge, as in real life applicable knowledge, is better than that one who gives you money. Because if you don't have the knowledge, you'll never know how to use the money and you'll never know how it has disappeared. I would like to thank you, MD, for this opportunity, and I'm very grateful. After the big one, but I've been given that opportunity to do that, and I'm very grateful, and thank you to the panelists as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deo, for the concluding remarks. The leadership session is indeed something that will continue sharpening our minds. It will strengthen our hearts. It will make our souls much more prepared to work. But more than anything else, they say the real purpose of education is to replace an empty mind with an open one. From all the discussions we have seen today, one thing is very clear. We must continue learning. We must continue reading. A very wonderful philosopher, the one I like very much, said, a man who refuses to read has no advantage over that one who cannot read. If you are literate and you refuse to read, you have no advantage over an illiterate man who cannot read at all. I would like to thank the MD. I'd like to thank Dr. Rose. I'd like to thank all the other panelists, all the 237 people who logged in today. I thank you for coming to attend this. I know that you have benefited. If you have learned one or two things, that's fantastic. It's more than money. I encourage you to sign in next week at the same time. When you come in, you register with your name because we shall issue certificates at the end of this process. I thank you very much. We have a little time to go and listen to His Excellency addressing us on the way forward as we continue living in this beautiful country. Thank you very much. Let's log in next week. The managers who are here, encourage your staff to participate because every day we'll learn something. Thank you very much. My mask.